Ronald V. Dellums was born in West Oakland at a time when racial discrimination was legal and the norm. His family, however, raised him to believe that he was equal to all, with the potential for accomplishments defined by his hard work and perseverance. In his youth, Ron got sidetracked and almost didn't graduate from high school. However, he promised his mother that he would turn his life around and make something of himself. After service in the Marines, Ron attended Merritt College, SF State, and UC Berkeley, where he received his MSW. In 1967, following his election to the Berkeley City Council, Ron's life was transformed by hearing Dr. King speak at UC Berkeley. Dr. King spoke about the interconnectedness of all issues of human rights and justice, and that a moral leader is someone who has the courage to do what's right rather than what is popular.
Ron's spirit, first of all, is awesome. He is a political person, a public servant, but he has this inner strength and this spirit and this sense about himself where he could kind of figure out everything. And he's one of the greatest statesmen, and he's a warrior, and he's very clear on the nature of progressive politics, and Ron always has been a unifier. The only question I want you to ask is it right? If it's the right thing to do, then do it, regardless. And so Ron's principles and his integrity are to behold.
In 1970, the people of Oakland and Berkeley sent Ron Dellums to Congress. For 27 years, he took stands against war and for social justice. His positions defined the progressive end of congressional policy debates. Democrats and Republicans alike held him in the highest esteem for his principled positions, his brilliance, and his integrity. Despite decades-long opposition to U.S. military policy, he was elected chair of the powerful House Armed Services Committee. Ron was a founding member of the Congressional Black Caucus and the first Democratic Socialist in Congress. Holding steadfast to Dr. King's teachings, Ron served as the inside leader working with outside organizing. He was a leader in the fights for peace and democracy and against military interventions around the world. Compelled by poet-activist June Jordan, Ron led efforts to end genocide in Bosnia. A leading environmentalist, Ron introduced the first federal climate change bill. He also led fights for universal health care, for housing as a human right, for farm worker rights, for LGBT rights, and for Japanese American reparations. For 17 years, Ron worked tirelessly to end apartheid in South Africa. Nelson Mandela and many South Africans credited Ron's work on divestment and sanctions as instrumental to freeing Mandela and ending apartheid. When he left Congress, Ron dedicated himself to addressing the HIV/AIDS pandemic. He used his position on the President's Commission on HIV and AIDS to develop an AIDS Marshall Plan for Africa. He worked with Congresswoman Lee on the federal PEPFAR programs, which have saved millions of lives. He chaired the Dellums Commission on the Status of Boys and Men of Color, an early foundation for President Obama's My Brother's Keeper initiative. Raised by strong, brilliant women, Ron has been a lifelong feminist. He supported Shirley Chisholm's run for president and mentored the incomparable Congresswoman Barbara Lee. At the age of 70, Ron Dellums left a comfortable life in D.C. to respond to the call of service by a broad coalition of Oaklanders who recruited him to run for mayor. Ron inherited a government on the verge of bankruptcy, a police force corrupted by the Writers' scandal, insanely high crime rates, and a city hall influenced by private developers. Under his leadership during the Great Recession, city finances were put on a solid financial footing. $350 million of federal and state stimulus funds were secured for Oakland projects and jobs. Serious reforms in the Oakland Police Department were finally prioritized, and homicides declined by 40% during his term. Keeping true to his roots, Ron used his position as mayor to address the needs of Oakland's most marginalized people.
Race and space still matter. And it determines the level of your education, which determines the level of your income, your employability, whether you live in poverty or you don't live in poverty, your health, your access to health. Then people start talking about how we deal with it. And most politicians can't even fix their lips to use the term poverty. It's like middle class. We have to do something for the middle class. All right? Because poor people are seen as powerless people. Poor people are seen as people who don't participate. Poor people tend to be seen as people that you can dismiss. Okay? They don't vote. They're not there. So if people don't have the capacity to push the levers of power, then we don't talk about them. So you can spend 2 years campaigning and never mention the word poverty when 40 million people live in poverty, and many of them live in West Oakland.
Today, Ron is nurturing young leaders to rise up to the challenge of solving grave injustice. Ron, we salute you for keeping your promise to your mother that you would someday make something of yourself. You certainly did. Thank you.
And they're crying across the land, and they will till we all come to understand. None of us are